welcome everybody. So glad you're able to join us today on this little webinar we like to call Virtual Brunch with Actual Nerds. My name is Leighton Rasco from Attendee Management. I'm a nerd. I'm moderating this discussion. We got some other AMI nerds on this call today, some of which include, but are not limited to, Christina Rasco, Jill Rasco, Jennifer Smith. We got Marissa, Kara, Anika, lots of people. It's been a little while since we've hosted a virtual brunch like this, so thank you so much for joining us. There are a couple reasons we've been on a little webinar hiatus. One is that we've been exploring other formats, mostly like short videos. So if you don't already, be sure to go to your favorite social media channel and type in the words Attendee Management. Follow us, and then you won't miss any of the videos we put out. The second reason is we've been busy. I hope all of you guys have been as well. Live events were kicking off again, but this recent Delta variant has been causing us all to pump the brakes a little bit on these live events. So, that's largely why we're here today and what we want to talk about. We want to know what trends you're seeing in the industry. This is an open discussion. So if you don't want to talk about COVID, that's cool too. If you want to know like my favorite flavor of ice cream, it's fine. Don't be shy. Just unmute yourself, speak up, drop the question in the chat. That's cool too. And it's mint chocolate chip, by the way. And
me too.
If you call it mint chip, come on, just stop being lazy. It's not that hard to say that extra word. If you don't mind, we also ask that you change your Zoom name to reflect your full name as well as your organization. And last, before we get started, the last note we have here is just to stay on mute unless you're talking, because, obviously we've done this for a while. You know why. So now let's get going. Open discussion, go. No, nobody. Okay.
Thank you, Leighton.
So I was hoping there'd just be a ravenous, everybody speaking up at once, but no. So we're going to just go into our first little bullet point here. Something that is near and dear to our hearts is event registration. And we're getting a lot of questions about what can we do to collect vaccination information during the registration project. Should we? Is it legal? I don't know. I mean,
Lynn, what are you seeing? I know you're doing a lot of events, right? Are people asking? Or are people answering is a better question.
So far, no one's asking.
Really?
I ask before I go anywhere. I've really been limiting going out or going to events personally. The events, we just had a huge ranch event, West Texas, several hundred people. One person came to the ranch with a mask, and then I think she took it off. So nobody was wearing them. No one was asking. We did lose quite a few attendees due to COVID. However, we still ended up with several hundred people from all over the country there. I'm being very cautious personally, and but I did get my booster, so I feel a little bit better. However, I lost my sense of taste this week and went for my first COVID test, which was negative, but it was weird, and it was not a pleasant experience, but I did it. And anyway, so I don't know. We've got a huge event coming up next month. We're talking about limiting the attendance, spreading out tables, but we're questioning the hotel about their air conditioning, and we're debating whether to have a cocktail reception or not. So there's still a lot of questions up in the air as far as what we're doing right now. And that, I don't know if that helps anybody or not.
I'm actually curious to some of the other people that may not. I mean, we're all in Texas. I know Lynn's in Texas. I'm curious, Jeanette, I might pick on you for a second since I know that you are not in Texas. But anyone else, is is there like, I mean, of course there's a regional difference. I'm wondering if you guys are seeing it. Like, I mean, the events that I have been to so far have been really still here. And I would say it's very similar to what Lynn's saying. Like, I mean, they might be outdoors, but besides that, it feels pretty normal. So I'm kind of curious what other people have seen across the country, if there's some different.
I've got a good friend who's part of Lamont Associates, Lamont Co. And they had their, supplier network for hotel resources, basically. And they had their event in Vegas, and Vegas does have the mask mandate, but they decided to take, a harder line because the definition of insanity is, of course, continue to do the same things we've always done. And guess what? We get the same result. So they decided to, mask required. I think vaccinations were required, or proof of, not, what is it, a negative COVID test within a certain number of hours. They're very strict about it. But because it was a smaller group, they all did what they were supposed to do. And also as a group, they were like, okay, we're having this, we need to have this, but guess what? We also need to figure out how to show people that it can be done safely. So, but it was a small group and controllable by the same token. And I'm not slamming MPI, THCC, or anybody else, or IAEE Central Texas chapter, but Southwest Showcase is a good example. I personally am not out right now to visit anywhere. Sorry, that sounded like the wrong kind of out. Pardon me. Did not mean for the confusion. But anyway, I'm not out in person at events at all, not even in my office or anything else. And I am vaccinated, but there's still a high risk. So there's a personal reason for me. But the thing that I heard, and this was from both the planner and supplier, the expo, exhibitors and the others, there was only about 50% of the people at Southwest Showcase, which was in Kalahari and Round Rock, that were masked. Now, they said the luncheons were great because there's great extra spacing, which also made talking or whatever difficult, but that is part of what happens with extreme social distancing. But they did say that there were several of them that told me that they did not feel comfortable because they didn't feel like people were even trying. And there's
I know at that event they were requiring either a vaccination proof or a proof of a negative test within, I can't remember what the timeline was, but
72 hours, I thought.
yeah, I heard
CDC had already said if you're indoors around people in larger groups, mask. I mean, they're not even talking about social distancing anymore from that standpoint. So they were trying, but I mean, I'm just telling you, a lot of people that I talked to did not feel comfortable with the way it went. If it'd been in Austin, I think there's more requirements going on in Austin. So
Jeanette, where are you located?
Permit, excuse me.
Sorry, bad timing.
No, I'm fine. Essentially San Francisco, but since the beginning of August, I've been back home here in Cleveland. My mom had to have some surgery done. So I've been working remote from Cleveland, but in San Francisco, obviously they've really kind of amped up things in terms of, restaurants requiring a vaccination card or proof of a negative test. Working at the Giants, all the associates were required to either have, vaccination or proof of negative test, and wear masks while they're working. As for the guests, they don't have to, but I notice a lot of people wearing masks. The only place in the ballpark where they required, I think, any type of proof of vaccination was like the Gotham Club, which is like an, inside setting as compared to an outdoor setting. Here in Cleveland, I know that there are a lot of music venues that are requiring proof of vaccination or negative tests. A couple of the restaurants have started to require proof of vaccination. Masking is kind of not as great as it would be in San Francisco. But I personally have been wearing my mask whenever I go out. So, and I got tested before I flew to Cleveland just as a safety precaution. My dad and I both got tested before my mom had her surgery as a safety precaution. So, and that's all personal choice, just to,
So
Is
for
it-
those of you who have attended or hosted events that do require proof of vaccination, I mean, is it just show your vaccination card at the door? Or have we seen anything beyond
Is
that?
anyone asking in their registration process from the start? I have one registration build. The event is in Macau, China, and they ended up taking it out, the question of vaccination. But I just wonder, how soon are you finding that out? Is it in those early registration processes? And then if the answer is no, are they able to register?
Some friends of mine that were Helms Briscoe this year, which was held in Dallas, and this is talking about like supplier and HB associate side, they were requiring, but how they were doing it was they actually had a service that they had hired that was sending everybody like a kit or something that they then had to mail in to get there. But several people that I talked to, unfortunately, didn't get their kit in time. So they were talking every day. It was a lot of wasted time, honestly. So I don't know if this was vendor problems, communication problems, or what happened, but it was more than one person who said that they then had trouble and they ended up being tested on site, which they were perfectly fine with because, but it was, there was just a lot of confusion in the process, even though it was said up front how it was going to be handled. It wasn't coming to fruition easily. So.
I've been, trying to keep up on this a little bit because of some of the questions that are sort of what Marissa presented, and we operate on the registration side, so there's such the obvious, like, oh, should we be collecting? Are you vaccinated? Are you, that kind of information. And it's we have a large corporate client who is dealing with that question and the fallout a lot lately. My understanding, and I'm not a legal expert by any means, but my understanding is you can ask the question. There's no problem with ask the question, but the answer and the information is considered like health information, so it's personal information, so the sharing of that information is in sharing and storing of that information starts to be where it becomes complicated. So I know for this particular client, they're battling with, okay, if we collect the information, we can't really provide it in reports that are being downloaded in Excel and can show, so there's all these fallout questions. And that's kind of where the question, and then I think that's sort of the showing it at the door, you're not storing the information, you're seeing it. But then I think that's where some of those companies like Lynn, what you're not Lynn, I'm sorry, Karen, what you're, speaking of is like, there's these companies coming up that can help track it. But I don't know how expensive those things are, and then what are the logistical, what happens when everybody does get the kit, or, is it an extra piece that they, have to sign up for? Some of them have like RFID kind of chips or something. I might have used the right technology to help track, and to help do contract tracing down the road. So, I mean, those are like it's really cool. I know, Jill, you had sat in on something, I believe, about one company. It's really cool, but like, what are all those logistical, and what's the budget?
Well, like
Another
IMEX
question
just
for that.
announced.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Marissa.
Oh, I was just going to say some of the question too is why, are you asking just so you know? The reason they were asking in Macau is because the government required it. And then it turns out, well, they know they're above a certain threshold, 80% or so. So then they don't need it anymore. But then they're doing like a satellite meeting in Hong Kong where most of their offices are. But Hong Kong, if they travel there, they will need it. So there's a lot of like, if you're coming from elsewhere in China into Macau, or from Hong Kong to Macau, and then the quarantine period. So, are we asking just so we know, or who needs the information too, especially when you're doing the international?
I was going to say what Jill was going to say too, that IMEX is requiring a vaccination, and it'll be interesting to see how they manage their registrations for several thousand people coming from all over.
Do you know anything, Lynn, about that Health Pass app that they're going to be using at IMEX? There's
No.
an app. Okay, so I'll put it in the chat. They
Yeah, do you
said
know
they
any?
will be using this app.
Hmm.
I don't know anything about pricing or anything, but
Oh yeah, you were
at
talking about
check-in.
this, the Clear.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing that they use at the airport, or is it not? Is it just happen to be?
No, it is.
similar
It's not the
name?
same. This is Clear Me.
Oh, okay. Much different.
Well, part of the problem, of course, we're, Texas, I'm Texas. So, but Texas doesn't have like a central system. Like even my son and daughter-in-law who live in Louisiana has a central government system where your vaccine is registered, and where you can get your proof of vaccine to carry with you mobilely or to be able to prove it. So that's kind of I guess a help, or can be a help depending on where you're going and what you're doing. But Texas, as far as I've been able to find, does not have a system like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I've seen other places, you can add it to your mobile wallet or whatever. We just have I have a handwritten card.
Layton,
There's my
look,
proof.
it looks like the same Clear.
Oh yeah.
Or I mean, I tried that link, but obviously I have not done my research.
Well, you've been going to a lot of events, Jill.
I have been, and people are, it's really been few masks. Now I haven't been to an event since this Delta variant has kind of kicked up, but I'll be going to 3 of them this next week. Now it's all in Texas. So we're doing a road show with Site Texas. So who knows?
Are they doing any kind of
Can I send you a
verification?
mask?
Yeah, really. I have a package of masks and I intend to wear them. We are asking people to wear masks. We felt like we could not require it since Texas can't require it. Now, Colorado just went back to a mask mandate indoors.
Legal Eagles, Jonathan Howe, Joshua Grimes. I've been, they're out there. We love them, especially, I shouldn't say this, but especially Jonathan, but they're pretty much saying if it's a private event, your list and stuff, you are allowed to do that. So I just think though you could get into some sticky, I mean, who knows what the repercussions might be, but supposedly because these are private events, they are run by a company or somebody, they can dictate what the plan of action is. What I'm hearing so much, and of course, because I'm not out and I'm not attending, I'm having to rely on people, but I'm not just talking to random strangers. Y'all know me. I'm talking to people that I know and trust in our industry on both sides. And me that what is happening almost across the board, almost anywhere they go, is the same thing. They may start out wanting something, but then once people are there, it's nobody is doing, or majority of people are not doing what they're supposed to do, and nobody is attempting to rein it in or do anything to stop them from doing. Just like you were talking about, who was it that said that one person was wearing her mask and then ended up, I guess feeling compelled to take it off or whatever. So it's more that kind of thing going.
It does. I personally kind of feel awkward if I'm wearing a mask and nobody else in the room has one on. It just is kind of weird, but I just get over it. You know, I walked in a restaurant the other day and I was the only person in there with a mask. And I went, okay. But
Yeah, it is a weird kind of social experiment, I guess
yeah,
you call it. Well, I mean, so one thing that we were seeing a couple months ago when we were returning to live events is weird that everybody was like, oh yeah, great, now we don't have to worry about hybrid anymore. It certainly seems like hybrid's here to stay, which is a weird thing that we were saying a year ago, and then everybody for a month was saying, oh great, now we don't have to do it. And
but
now
are we finding people that are willing to pay for it?
right.
I mean, I don't have a client right now that's doing hybrid. It's either virtual or in person.
Corporate, that's my market, and corporate is willing to pay for it. They're not necessarily happy about it. They do want to kind of get rid of it, but they're also the most risk averse, I think, of all the markets, because I've certainly over the years worked all of them, just been corporate only for the past 2 years. And it's, you know, I mean, they'll pay for it. They'll do it in a heartbeat. And I hate to say this, but cancellations are off the chart starting last week in July and continuing. And I'm not talking about cancellations of stuff that is still pending. I'm talking about cancellations of things that are on the books, already contracted, already definite, already coming, canceling with no rescheduling. Just, okay, that's it, out of here. A lot of them are talking about not even looking again until November, December, and a number are not even going to look at any kind of in-person, like even the RFPs until January 22. So it's not a great outlook, if you know what I mean. Now I've still got stuff coming in. It's not like there's not a lot of stuff going on, but just sharing the side of how it's already, this Delta variant is completely affecting the corporate market and their pullback.
Are you seeing that are you seeing it based on size of meeting? Is there any comparison there? Or is it just corporate versus private?
Well, corporate is private usually.
Well,
but
okay.
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's corporate versus association or something. I mean, I know like Austin, one of the largest, if not the largest association, is moving forward with their big conference coming up pretty soon. But I think they're not happy because they're losing registrations all the time and things like that because the Delta variant, you know, people are having trouble. It's not going to be in Texas. It's out of state and it's in one of the states that's high risk right now.
We've
So-
lost a few sponsors for the Site Texas road shows next week just because of travel restrictions that have been imposed upon them by their companies. But we haven't had attendees cancel. Now, they may just not show up. I don't know, but we're still moving forward.
Christina, Layton, or Jennifer, we were on that training the other day. Do you remember what that corporate client's threshold was for in-person versus, was it 50? Was it 100?
I do not remember the specifics. I do remember very much that there was a lot based on where it was, what the restrictions, and these are, you know, like lots of small events was mostly what they're talking about. And, you know, it like managing it, obviously a nightmare, right? Because where's the event? How much? You're right, Marissa, there was some sort of threshold that they were deciding on. I do think it had to do with where it was, the capacity of the location, and then like how many people were they expecting or wanting to pull in to make the event itself worth it.
And these are like holiday parties, I believe, is the goal, or little small, you know, their satellite offices getting together in the next few months here. So, you know, definitely more casual, not a lot of training, maybe the occasional, oh no, the CPE stuff would be all for their virtual events. So yeah, the in-person should just be those fun things, which, you know, are probably easier to cancel too.
The threshold was 100.
Thanks,
So I
Jen.
remember that. But also Jeanette had a question. Does anybody have any great hybrid meeting solutions they might mention?
Oh, it depends.
The best answer, yeah. I mean, we've been using it. I mean, you want to say Events Air? I mean, we've been using that to pretty good success lately. And it's,
I've enjoyed using Events
yeah.
Air.
Keep going, Jill.
There
Yeah.
there are several.
Well, no, just dig a little deeper into Events Air. I mean,
Well, the one thing I have liked best about Events Air as a builder, I mean, it's pretty easy for us to put together an event and it's all integrated. So you're not going out and using multiple tools. So there's a mobile app that's integrated. There's lead retrieval that's integrated. There's they now have a virtual, well, they're kind of the first ones to come out with a virtual studio. So the planner or the organizer can be in control of the stage, if you will, but also it's integrated between in-person attendees and virtual attendees. So you're all in the same app. You can ask questions in the same Q&A area. The chat is integrated, so everybody's using the same thing. It's been real fun.
It's a registration platform originally, so and at its core. So, you know, I mean, that it depends question is really important, but, you know, if, you know, these systems work so well when they're kind of all together, right? Integrated, like Jill was saying. So if you think about it, it's, you know, you can have your website registration, and then kind of depending on, is it virtual, is it hybrid, you know, and then the app's integrated, and the studio's integrated. So it kind of allows for that full experience within the same platform.
So it allows you to like host videos and simulcast.
You can do live, simulcast, on demand. It automatically records your session. So if you want to build out an on-demand event, it makes it really easy. You just download the recording and make it available on demand.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to tag on to that, like, you know, that full service at the same time. I mean, if you're utilizing other programs and you're kind of set in that program, then, you know, for registration or, you know, mobile app or whatever, like it is good to like look at all the other components you're using. And then is there, you know, is it something you can pull in or, you know, I know
Yeah,
that
like
one of
the last event we did in Events Air, we also linked out to Zoom from the event. So they did some of their sessions in a standard Zoom. It was schools. So each school had their own Zoom account. So they just set up their own Zoom meeting. We just linked everybody out to it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm
Christine.
literally, oh, no problem. I'm going on a call later this afternoon with another registration platform that we use a whole lot. Some of you probably know what I'm talking about, but they are launching
it's okay. You
stream.
can, it's not a secret, these
Yeah,
company
right.
names.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. So Certain is a good year later, but they are launching a streaming, it's kind of through their touch point, which is their mobile application, a similar kind of a streaming ability to pull that together so that you've got that one same concept as Events Air.
Yeah,
more or
Cvent
less.
launched theirs in
Yeah.
June, was it, with Cvent Connect? Same kind of studio, live studio.
Yeah, we were supposed to have something with Cvent integrating with Zoom, but had some issues with it. So not being able to pull through and all that.
Integration and issues? What are you talking about, Jeanette? That's like crazy.
Who ever heard of that?
Integration issues with Cvent?
No.
We ran up their flagpole. Let's just put it that way.
I've been virtual for so long now, and honestly, I have not been, and I'm very active. I'm on one of the chapter, just disclosure, I'm on one of the chapter boards for PCMA, longtime MPI member, 2 chapters and all that stuff, number of other organizations too. And all these virtual conferences, nobody is using good platforms. Somebody do WEC virtual in June because we were traveling by then. I'd done the one they did in November virtual, but then by the time we were traveling, my director did not want to send anybody who couldn't go in person. And so I didn't get to attend. The only WEC I've not attended since 1992. So killed me, but I wasn't going to pay for it personally. No offense. But
we attended live, and it
okay,
was
yeah.
virtual last year.
Yes. But they had the 2 separated, which was a major problem for those of us that are on the virtual side, because it's like you're these little pocket over here and you can't connect or know who anybody else is. And it's been very disappointing for any of the platforms that have tried to separate the 2, making them 2 different programs, because that's not even hybrid. That's a virtual program, a digital program, and a live program.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Karen. I always get on people like, you can't, like, just like, oh, well, when we have a live stream, like, no, an event and a live stream, that's not a hybrid event. Like, you can't call it that. That's a live stream. Just to that point, because it is just, all right, here, just watch this. I mean, I don't, when I watch a football game live, I don't think I'm actually there at the stadium. It's definitely not the same experience.
Yeah, but it's probably still a better experience than being
being a virtual
than a camera in the back of the room at a convention. I know, and there's this stream of thought recently that's like, well, why are we going to even try if it's a hybrid? I mean, why don't we just separate these 2 things and try to make them best individually, which, like you're saying, isn't a hybrid. It's a live meeting with recorded content that's published. So,
Well, and personally, I'm sorry, but I am way worse about paying attention to a virtual meeting than I am if I'm there in person.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Event Connect virtually, I didn't really feel like I got anything out of it. I've been there live and I got a lot out of it. I mean, it's the same with WC. Now, the WC virtual last year, I felt was what I was really involved and engaged, but that was because I was part of the fam cam or whatever the heck it was. So I was always on waiting for that moment when we were going to be on camera. But virtually, I just don't get as much out of the sessions.
yeah, I mean, I've fallen asleep in live sessions and virtual sessions.
And lots of meetings too.
Yeah, and internal staff meetings. So I really have nothing great to add to this conversation other than the fear that you're about to be on camera and the stage is probably the best incentive that I've heard of for a hybrid solution.
Did make you pay attention.
Right. So let's see. Let me look through these notes.
Hey,
We've got notes.
Katie, wages, anything going on with you that and your group as far as events? Are you having to cancel them all?
We are having them. I can't say a whole lot more.
Okay, you're having them. That's it. All right.
We are having them. I may or may not be able to answer questions about those events, but
no problem.
I'm trying to think when the last one canceled, and I can't. So yeah, everything that I take that back. We did have an internal meeting cancel because the people traveling to the event were coming from states and locations that had low vaccination rates. So it was decided internally to not have those people get together. So that did get postponed till next year. But I think we're like everybody, where we had thought things were getting better, and then I was right back in that same game of, and I'm just going to have to now cancel everything that I just spent weekends and nights trying to rapidly book at insane rates. And now all of a sudden Delta hit, and I'm not sure any of these are going to happen, but they are,
Groundhog
except for the one.
Day.
So it was crazy. It was like, hurry, hurry, hurry. And now basically the minute the ink dried, it was like, this isn't looking too good, but
Yeah.
so far so good.
I mean, it's like last year we went from March, move everything to like June. Oh, no, August. No, let's go to November. Well, how about next year? I'm not seeing it as rapidly, but we are seeing it.
It's wild times for sure.
And so much of it's optics too. You know, I mean, who's the client? What's the meeting about? How many people? Where is it? Like, and what does it look, you know, what does it look like internally or externally if you have that event? You know, so it's kind of a hard.
I'm also, I don't know about everybody else, but I've completely changed the way that I operate with planning, so that I just looked at a proposal from our third party for an event we're having in Nashville. And normally I would look at, say they would give me 10 different restaurant options for some really high profile dinners. All I wrote back was, which one of these has an outside patio? And that's not a requirement from my company. That's me saying, I have to attend that dinner, one. So I would like to be outside. And it's like, what space? I don't even care. I don't necessarily even care the quality of the restaurant. I'm willing to skip that for who has outdoor space. So I think that's going to get really interesting, because, you know, like I said, 9 of the 10 were discounted because they didn't have a patio. So I mean, discounted meaning I wasn't even considering them. It was like, who's got the outdoor space?
Yeah, Plano has lots of patios. And I mean, seriously, because we have these walkable districts, but I'm not saying that to sell you on Plano. I'm telling you, because that is now the #1 requested resources from our services is
Isn't
what
that funny?
And outdoor patios at restaurants and any kind of outdoor event space that's part of a hotel or someplace easy to walk to or something like that. Yeah, it's flipped, believe me.
Yeah, in some parts of Texas, it needs to be outdoor air conditioned patio.
Yeah. And that's really, I love that, Katie. I love what you have to say there, because I hadn't really, I mean, we're so on the like registration behind the desk. You know, you give us the information and we'll turn out that, you know, that site and that registration form. But just kind of the planner, like from a planner perspective, and so from a sourcing perspective, like, you know, what are the different thoughts? And like, you know, we talked about timelines so much last year, how timelines changed, but, you know, I'm sure we're, you know, seeing a lot of that too, and are going to continue to see shortened timelines, different requirements as far as specs are concerned, and just different ways we're making decisions.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes
And
back
on your
to
on-site,
Go
your
ahead,
on-site reg, we were trying to pull for the last event that I just attended, which was last week. We were outdoors as much as we could possibly be. We always try to on incentive trips, just because our people are usually not in great areas. So assuming we're in areas where there's good weather, but we stayed outside with everything that I could possibly pull outside, we did. Sorry to interrupt, Layton.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's kind of the optics game, you know, everything's outside, over requiring vaccination proof. I mean, I feel like, I mean, it's not like people are just disregarding the health benefits of those things, but it's, I mean, if somebody's on the fence about it and they see that you're doing these precautions, they're more likely to go ahead and sign up. Or you just go the complete opposite way and appeal to the I don't care crowd, I guess, but I don't see that happening. So
There was a meeting, they've been touting a lot of safety. I don't know if y'all know preview meetings and incentives but they're a publication company and then do these summits and things like that, you know, how, so anyway, they're mostly corporate. So they had done, they've done receptions. And like I said, they're on the high end as far as protocol. I mean, they've got sponsorships, partners, you know, that are providing all this and using it as an education showcase too. But they were doing like receptions where everybody is given a mask that has like that little, you know, opportunity for the slit for a straw, and then every drink is pre-prepared and waiting for somebody to take it off of a tray. And then, but they gave no food at the reception. But as you were leaving, you could pick up your bento style box that had all these little prepackaged individual goodies in it. And then the attendees, and it just sounds like a smart idea. And several people said they really liked it, but you could take it back to your room, your hotel room. You could find a spot on your own where you wanted to network. They weren't providing that in the reception area. You could find a space in the hotel. You could meet amongst groups of people you wanted to, or however you wanted to handle your food consumption. But that's what they were doing for like an evening reception. And of course, then they shortened the time frame too, so that it was only like, I think, an hour versus, you know, normally be like an hour and a half or 2 hour reception. So.
So the last thing we kind of wanted to touch on was, I think these two things go kind of hand in hand because staffing and budget. You know, first of all, with staffing, whose guidelines are we following? Is it the hotel? I mean, are we doing CDC, local government? And, you know, how does the budget account for the additional staffing if we're talking about, you know, people that are checking vaccine cards or taking temperatures at the door?
And does that need to be some sort of professional, or can anybody be the COVID officer? If there is such a thing.
It's just a mom touching everybody's forehead.
Yeah, really. That's perfect.
You caught me off guard with that one, Lane.
We actually were asked, this was not, I think it was staff meeting like last week, that our event services coordinator brought up. She goes, oh, well, you know, such and such, and it was an association. So, and those of you that know me know that I've covered association most of my career. I've been with Plano 17 years of my career, and I covered association and corporate for 15, and then just corporate for the past. So I'm experienced in a lot of markets, but this was association, and they were actually asking our DMO CVB to provide people that would be at the front of the hotel, like the entrance. And then as the attendees were coming in, to take their temperature and stop them from. And of course, we're on this staff Zoom call, and my face, I went, I'm sorry, I've got a comment here. How can that even be something that we could consider sending volunteers for? We help with registration assistance, complimentary, and all sorts of stuff. But there's no way we can send people to take people's temperatures and be the police to say, whoops, sorry, you can't come in. So, and my director, of course, was like, yeah, I mean, I can't even believe they asked about that. So that just shows you people are not either not thinking or they were trying to take advantage of us. I'm not sure which.
Well, you know, and it
I'm
seems
gonna
like an
ask-
easy enough role, but it's like, but then the fall, like what happens when somebody tests, and then what happens on the next thing, and being responsible for that. Sorry, Katie, I think I started speaking over you.
No, I was just going to say, I'm going to ask that on every call. Hotels, DMC, I'm going to ask blanket, could you take the temperature of our, just to see the people, but I'm going to demand it be on a Zoom call so I can see their faces when they, and then I'm going to ask for what I really want. So they're like, well, let me make this happen because the other was so crazy.
It's a negotiating
When I
point
ask
for
for
you.
my outdoor patio.
Air conditioned.
Well, I would think you would want somebody at the least who's gone through some type of COVID compliance officer type training, which are available and out there, through the World Health Organization and whatnot. So at least the person that you have either in charge and working with your volunteers at least has some type of training behind them so that they have a plan in place if somebody's temperature is too high or they don't want to give information and whatnot. So you have a plan in place. Obviously, if you want to go a bit farther, then it's probably best to hire somebody who has a medical background or a company like a Carbon Health or whatever, where they could come in and do the testing, the contact tracing, and all of that other stuff. So I guess it just depends on the client. And like you said, Christina, the budget, right?
All goes down to budget, huh?
The budget, and I mean, the last thing that I wanted to bring up was staffing shortages. It's hard to find people that want to do this kind of stuff.
Well,
So-
it's hard for everybody to find staff, and I don't know where all the people have gone, but I know it's like all of the hotels are still are operating at lower staff, if not 50% less.
I know
Yeah.
we were on a call with a colleague that was in Nigeria, and even in Nigeria, they're having trouble finding people. So it's not just a US issue. I think it's a worldwide issue. And I think probably the number one thing is that this is an assumption, but these folks, they fear COVID, and knowing that they're working in positions that expose them more than likely to a situation that could be potentially, dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
I read a really interesting article a while back, and of course I don't have all the details, so I can't tell you where to find it, but it was talking about how for like the first time maybe ever, there's a mismatch between staffing supply and demand, the kind of work that needs to be filled versus the kind of work that the people are willing to do. And like in our industry, so many people may have moved on to something else or gone elsewhere because they need work. Yeah, so those positions may not be coming back. But I'm seeing, in a lot of places, we actually need more staff to do things that we weren't having to do before, like be the COVID police and the mask police and individually packaged food items and all of those things. I mean, I keep wondering what the sustainability people are going through, because sustainability has probably taken a step backwards.
I read an article recently and I have a hard time, they're reliable sources. We all have sign up for various feeds from sources that we trust. But they were saying that CSR is still one of the number one things requested. Guys, I look at RFPs all the time and CSR is not discussed anymore. Now, maybe that's because of our area. That could be, and it could be that this article is talking about worldwide or something, but it's definitely not anything that anybody's worrying about right now. They're just worrying about safety. And even if that means that it's going to cost the facility, or, that we're seeing the rising food and beverage costs because of the packaging, the extra packaging. So anyway, that was kind of interesting. Something I was going to say on the legal side from listening, I like to stay informed of what obviously our clients, our customers, and people are having to go through, which is why I'm so interested in the contracting aspect. But one of the big things that's emphasized is whatever you want in the future, you better make sure it's on paper, because there is no guarantee anymore from any hotel that they're going to come in and change towels, that they're going to change your sheets, that they're going to come in your room at all, that they're going to leave the mint on the pillow, that you're going to have valet parking, that you're going to have, it's like almost anything that we have, that you're going to have complimentary gym access for your people. Even complimentary swimming pool access has come into play with some brands now. You have to pay, So now I'm not saying that's the big brands yet, but what somebody starts, somebody eventually follows. So they're just saying it all has to be laid out because there is no guarantee anymore in the services end of things that you will get what you have been expecting.
I know from a personal standpoint, one industry I've seen boom is internet service providers. My husband does tech support for one, and they are hiring people all the time at $15 plus an hour to work from home because people are still needing internet, you know? So yeah, there are those industries that are seeing the opposite happen.
True. That and virtual event platform providers.
Is Events Air hiring?
Actually, probably.
All right.
Probably.
Well, you know what? That was actually kind of a nice uplifting note to sort of a downer of a topic. So let's go ahead and just wrap this up right now. It's, you know, a couple minutes to let you get to your next Zoom call or whatever you got next. So thank you all for joining us. We love doing these. We also love putting out video content, but of course we need your help to go on your social media channels and share, follow, click all the buttons that look like they do something good. Even go in there and drop a comment if you want to. And then go to our website, which is attendingnet.com. And then if you put a backslash and type actual-nerds, then you get to see all of our stuff. It's all up there. If you want to rewatch some webinars or check out some interviews that we've done with some industry folk, it's all there. That's it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Oh, we also post these. So
Oh, yeah.
if we probably should post some of these links from the chat because there's some good information, especially Jeanette. Jeanette
I know,
knows
there are-
everything.
There are a lot
She's
of links
got all
in
the
this chat
links.
today.
Sorry. I get the eCornell sessions have been kind of good, and diversity movement, if anybody's into DEI, a lot of that. So I'm happy to share whatever. So, and I've been sharing your stuff with my ILEA friends too. So
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And
Spreading
DEI
it
is
all
a
around.
great topic for another one. We need to touch on that. That's
Yep.
something we try our
Thanks,
best.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Good to see everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a
Glad
great
to have
weekend.
you with us.
Bye.